Welcome back to another lecture for Intro Psych. Today we are talking about motivation. Have you ever thought about what truly motivates you in life? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it the pursuit of love, happiness? Today we're diving into the fascinating topic of motivation. We'll explore what drives us to behave in the ways that we do and how various theories help us understand this complex aspect of human behavior. By the end of this section, you will be able to define intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, knowing the difference between the two, understand that instincts, drive reduction, self-efficacy, and social motives have all been proposed as theories of motivation, and explain the basic concepts associated with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So just what is motivation? Motivation refers to the wants and needs that direct our behavior towards a goal. Motivations can include physiological drives like hunger or sex, social desires like the need for achievement or belonging, cognitive motives like the desire for understanding or a quest for knowledge, and the pursuit of certain emotions like happiness or the avoidance of emotions like shame. Biological motives are fundamental to our survival. They include hunger, thirst, and the drive for reproduction. Everything we need to keep us alive and thriving. Our bodies have evolved intricate systems, such as the hypothalamus, to regulate these biological needs. Think about a time when you felt intensely hungry or thirsty. How did these biological urges influence your behavior? You likely checked the fridge or started scrolling Grubhub to see how quickly you could get some food. We're also motivated by social influence, such as our need for achievement, affiliation, and power. Social norms and others' expectations of us often shape these motives. Can you think of a situation where your desire for achievement or affiliation influenced your behavior? Perhaps you wanted to tell your family you passed the recent midterm with outstanding scores. Eager to hear their praise and show them just how well you're doing in school, you were motivated to study over the weekend instead of hanging out with friends. Alternatively, maybe your friends had been asking you to hang out for quite some time and you didn't want to disappoint them. So instead of studying, you went out. Unlike biological and social motives, cognitive motives arrive from our thoughts and perceptions. Curiosity, the need for control, and the pursuit of knowledge are examples of cognitive motives. Emotions also play a significant role in motivation, which is why we have a separate lecture reserved entirely for emotions. Fear, for example, can motivate us to avoid danger, while excitement can drive us to pursue new experiences, like trying out a new roller coaster or maybe skydiving, even if we're a little nervous. Psychologists Ryan and Deci have further organized our understanding of motivation by making the distinction between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Motivations can be intrinsic, arising from internal factors, or extrinsic, arising from external factors. Intrinsically motivated behaviors are performed because of the sense of personal satisfaction that they bring when we feel a sense of autonomy, demonstrate our mastery of a skill or an area of knowledge, or we feel our actions are fulfilling a larger purpose. Extrinsically motivated behaviors are performed in order to gain something from others, like earning compensation or receiving praise, or a desire to avoid punishment. If you think for a moment about what motivated you to take this class, was it a desire to gain a deeper understanding of the way your mind works? Intrinsic, or was it to fulfill a degree requirement? Extrinsic. Or perhaps it was a combination of both. In reality, your motivations are often a mix of both intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, and your motivations might even change over time. Think for a moment what motivates you to do a behavior you engage in daily. Exercise, for example, could be externally motivated because one wants to fit into society's standards of what is seen as fit and attractive. Or maybe they are externally motivated to work out because their doctor told them they need to lose weight in order to avoid health complications. Or maybe someone loves working out because they genuinely enjoy the feel of their body in motion and the rush of endorphins they get after a workout. Let's review some of the theories that describe human motivation, specifically drive theory, self-efficacy, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. William James is often referred to as the father of psychology in the US. He theorized that behavior is driven by instincts, like a reflexive instinct of infants to suck, which allows for survival. From a biological perspective, an instinct is a species-specific pattern of behavior that is not learned. However, there was controversy over the definition of instinct as it refers to human behavior, and this view received a fair amount of criticism because of the undeniable role of learning. If you think back to the module on learning, remember that our behavior is also influenced by classical and operant conditioning. For example, you might recall that some instinctive behaviors are able to be experimentally demonstrated to result from associative learning, like how little Albert was conditioned to fear rats and other fluffy white things like Santa's beard. The drive theory of motivation states that when the body is not in its normal state of homeostasis, it creates physiological needs. These needs result in the psychological drive states that direct behavior to meet the need and bring the body back to normal, back to homeostasis. For instance, if you have not eaten for a while, your blood sugar levels will drop below the normal range. This low blood sugar will create a physiological need and a corresponding drive state, hunger, that will direct you to look for and consume food. Eating will satisfy the hunger urge and eventually bring your blood sugar levels back to normal. Drive theory also emphasizes the role that habits can play in the types of behavioral responses that we engage in. A habit is a behavior pattern that we regularly engage in. Once we have engaged in a behavior that is successful in reducing a drive, we're more likely to engage in that behavior when we're faced with the same drive in the future, creating habits. Extensions of drive theory take into account different levels of arousal as potential motivators. It is thought that there is an optimal level of arousal that we need to all try to maintain, a homeostasis of excitement, if you will. If we are under-aroused, we tend to become bored and we'll seek out some sort of stimulation. We might flip through Netflix to find a new series that'll capture our attention. On the other hand, if we are over-aroused, we'll engage in behaviors to reduce our arousal. Maybe we're overwhelmed at a party, so we step into the bathroom to collect our thoughts. As a student, you likely experience this need to maintain optimal levels of arousal over the course of the academic school year. For instance, think about how much stress you experience towards the end of the spring semester. You might feel overwhelmed with endless exams, papers, and assignments that are piling up. You probably yearn for the rest and relaxation that awaits you over summer break. However, once you're a few weeks into summer, especially if you don't have something to keep you busy, like a job or a trip that you've planned with friends, you probably begin to feel bored. And by the time the next semester is beginning in the fall, you're quite happy to return to school, excited to do something new and see old friends that you've missed over summer. So just what is the optimal level of arousal? What level leads to the best performance? Research shows that moderate arousal is generally best. When arousal is very high or very low, performance tends to suffer. Think of your arousal level regarding taking an exam for this class. If your level was very low, like you were bored or maybe apathetic, your performance will likely suffer. If your arousal was very high, like you had extreme test anxiety, this could be paralyzing and hinder performance. But optimal arousal level is a little more complicated than a simple answer of the middle ground is always best. Researchers Robert Yerkes and John Dodson discovered that the optimal level of arousal depends on the complexity and the difficulty of the task to be performed. This relationship is known as the Yerkes-Dodson law, which holds that a simple, easy task is performed best when arousal levels are relatively high, whereas complex, difficult tasks are performed best when arousal levels are low. What about self-efficacy? Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in their own ability to complete a task, which can be based on their past success in completing a similar task. According to Albert Bandura, an individual's sense of self-efficacy plays a critical role in motivating their behavior. Bandura explains that our motivation comes from our expectations about the consequences of our actions and our appreciation of our ability to engage in a particular behavior that determines our actions and future goals. Over the years, several theorists have conducted research to better understand social motives. These social motives have been categorized into 3 categories: need for achievement, affiliation, and intimacy. The need for achievement is a fundamental human need that drives us to attain success and accomplishment. It is the desire to overcome challenges, accomplish goals, and push ourselves to our limits. People with a high need for achievement are often highly competitive, driven, and goal-oriented. They strive to improve, learn, and grow in their personal and professional lives. The need for affiliation, on the other hand, is the desire to interact positively with others. It is the need for social interaction, companionship, and the feeling of being a part of something greater than oneself. People with a high need for affiliation tend to be highly sociable, outgoing, and friendly. They enjoy spending time with others and building new relationships. And finally, the need for intimacy is the need for deep, meaningful relationships. It is a desire for close connections, emotional bonding, and shared experiences with the people we love and trust. People with a high need for intimacy are often highly empathetic, caring, and compassionate. They seek out meaningful relationships and are willing to invest time and effort in building and maintaining them. Now, if hearing all 3 of these, you're thinking, wow, that sounds like me. This is because it is human nature to strive for all 3 of these needs: achievement, affiliation, and intimacy. Abraham Maslow gives additional insight into our motivation. Abraham Maslow proposed a hierarchy of needs that cover a wide range of human motives. This hierarchy includes physiological needs, basic needs for security and safety, the need to be loved and to have a sense of belonging, and the need to have self-worth and confidence. At the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, which means achieving one's full potential. Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that we are motivated to satisfy basic physiological needs first before moving on to higher level needs. And self-actualization can only be reached when the needs lower on the hierarchy have been met. Maslow proposed that self-actualization is really a lifelong process, and that only a small percentage of us will achieve this state. For instance, if someone's struggling to find enough food to not go hungry, it's quite unlikely that they would spend much time thinking about whether others viewed them as a good person or not. Instead, all of their energies would be geared towards finding their next meal. Maslow's theory has been criticized for its subjective nature and its inability to account for phenomena that occur in the real world. For example, Gandhi, a world-renowned advocate for independence through nonviolent protest, on several occasions went on hunger strikes to protest. This act of self-sacrifice displayed his higher-level motives beyond his own basic need for food. Despite criticisms of Maslow's theories, it remains a significant contribution to the field of psychology, with many researchers building upon it to explore and understand human behavior and motivation. How do you think this hierarchy applies to modern society? Are there instances where people might prioritize higher level needs over basic physiological needs? Can you think of any of these examples from your own life? Let's take a look at a behavior we all do and we all need to do in order to survive. What motivates us to eat? Biologically, hunger involves a complex process. We're likely to feel hungry when our stomachs are empty, when we experience stomach contractions, and when blood glucose drops. Different parts of the hypothalamus in the brain have been found to be responsive to blood glucose levels and our feelings of hunger and satiety, or feeling full. Other processes monitor certain hormones, such as leptin and insulin, and other chemicals such as fat and protein. According to drive theory, deviations from our body's homeostasis triggers a drive, in this case, hunger, and urges us to engage in a behavior that will restore balance, in this case, eating. A drop in blood sugar triggers the physiological need to return to homeostasis, which initiates the hunger drive. Your stomach growls, and to satisfy this drive, you check what's in your fridge for lunch. Once you've eaten, your blood sugar levels are restored to normal levels, and you no longer feel hungry. But then, why is it that one person can eat a cheeseburger and feel full, and yet another person needs to order a double-double with fries and a shake to feel full? A person's metabolic rate is the amount of energy that is expended in a given time, and there's tremendous individual variability in our metabolic rates. And why is it that some of us struggle to lose weight no matter how much we exercise or adjust our caloric intake, while others seem to merely think the word diet and they lose weight? The set point theory asserts that individuals have an ideal body weight, or a set point, which is resistant to change. This set point is genetically predetermined, and efforts to move our weight significantly from that set point are resisted by compensatory changes in energy intake and expenditure. It's important to recognize that there are certainly other motivators behind eating, beyond just what drive theory can explain. Otherwise, we'd all eat to the point of feeling full, and there would not be so much diversity in body weight. For example, how often have you been immersed in an exciting action movie, and before you know it, you've eaten all the way to the bottom of the popcorn bowl, long past your body sending your brain satiety signals? How often have you reached for a box of Oreos or a carton of ice cream after a particularly stressful day? You're not necessarily hungry, but you know eating these sweets will make you feel a little better after a bad day. Or what about the social influences of diet culture and our desire to fit in and be seen as attractive? These social and cognitive influences can lead us to ignore hunger pains or indulge when we feel like we deserve a treat. Psychological motivations of hunger also include past experience with certain foods, like remember my Pepto story from the module on classical conditioning and learning. Taste and smell preferences, culture, and social context also play a role in hunger. Memory of previous meals throughout the day play a role in hunger too. Food presentation as well is important. The more variety of food you have on your plate, the more likely you are to eat more. As you can see, hunger is just one example of human behavior that is influenced by many different motives, both biological, social, and cognitive. To wrap up this lecture, motivation is a complex interplay of biological, social, cognitive, and emotional factors. By understanding these different motives that influence us, you can gain insight into your own behavior and make informed decisions about your goals.